The federal government has called on the Edo State Governor, Godwin Obaseki, to eschew politics in his criticism of the government, declaring that as President Bola Tinubu has admonished, and I quote, "The time for politics and politicking is over. We are now in the season of the serious business of governance to build a stronger, more viable, socially cohesive, and more prosperous Nigeria," end of quote. The Minister of Information and National Orientation, Malam Mohammed Idris, delivered the rebuke in a response to a statement credited to Obaseki, which was published yesterday. He accused Obaseki of ignorance of the broader economic picture, including the advocacy of World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, IMF, and economic experts who had consistently advocated for the removal of fuel subsidy because of the fiscal distortions and burden it placed on the economy. Okay, take on this story.
Well, the man said it earlier, well, not really earlier, a while ago, in terms of what was happening under President Buhari. And you begin to wonder at that time, was it true, was it not? But a number of analysts did confirm that the government under Buhari was printing money. They were printing money. The current president should just focus on the issues that matter. Leave Obaseki alone. Don't respond to a governor that has said something that a lot of people have said it was correct. And even now, they're still saying that that's exactly what happened. Why is President Tinubu's government investigating and making inquisition into everything that happened under Buhari, especially with the CBN? Why are they doing it? It's because of the things that someone like Governor Obaseki had said. So don't even engage in this. This is not a battle that I would expect the president to engage in. And it's something that worries me when we begin to even discuss this. I would expect that the president will focus on the things that affect Nigerians. The things that affect Nigerians is joblessness. Farms are closing down. Businesses are closing down. Unemployment numbers are increasing, whether the NBS does it or whether they recognize it or not. All the issues that affect us in terms of this fuel subsidy, let the government focus on it. Engaging Governor Obaseki is not one of those things that I would expect that the federal government will engage in or even the president will speak to. So I don't have much to say about it. I just hope the president will know what the people feel. We are saying exactly what he has said. Let the poor breathe. Let us breathe. Give us a chance. All of us that require help from government, give us a chance. Don't engage in politics. Thank you.
All right. 5.
I mean, so what are the facts of the matter? And let us deal with facts in public conversation. What did Governor Obaseki say? He said he doesn't know what will befall the citizens of Nigeria after the palliatives have finally stopped coming in. What did he say before now? He said we were printing money. Is that a lie? No. Are those two statements statements of fact? Yes. Rufai, what's the proof? The proof is in the fact that, one, these palliatives we're even sharing are, apart from being tenured, are also loans, which the state governments have asked, how are they going to repay? Which we also saw a consensus that increased the loans of the states, because most of the palliatives given are not free. This new tranche of 5 billion given, a part of it is free, another part is not free. And it's a very pertinent question the governor asked. And he asked that question based on his knowledge as an antecedent. And his antecedents. This same Governor Obaseki is one of the most, industrious investment bankers in the country. So he knows what he's talking about. Just like when he talked about it last year that they were printing money and everybody revoked him, but it was finally proven right. We all see the numbers in Ways and Means. We all saw the CBN report. I think the government should focus on governance. And if you don't have empirical rebuttals, not say people are playing politics. Because what Governor Obaseki has done is asked a vital question that I thought the government would be able to bring a template by saying that once we end subsidy, we will have achieved sort of economic growth to be able to buffer the effect of the subsidy removal. And I think also this thing that people in government do to gaslight everybody is wrong. When people ask that what did you put in place after removal of subsidy, it does not mean that they did not want subsidy to be removed. Because I've seen that nuanced debate in a bit of gaslighting people in this conversation. All we said was that the president did not prepare for subsidy removal, that some things ought to be put in place before he removes subsidy. We're not saying we don't support it. And you see, no matter how much people try to gaslight us and say, oh, because you talk against the fact that he didn't prepare for not removing subsidy, you don't support subsidy removal, you supported it before, it's all a lie, it won't work. 1,000 lies does not make a true word. A lie is a lie from the pit of hell. What I expect the government to do is to give a robust response that, oh, we have put in dynamic ways in place to be able to buffer the economy after the subsidy renewal goes. That's a very good response. Not saying the governor is playing politics. Isn't that a hard thing to be able to bring up national discourse to be able to grow our country? And people don't see it beyond that, and they turn it into politics and everything. I just hope it's not this way of pointing accusing fingers this administration will start with. And the Minister of Information should do well as regards just informing us what the government is doing in all this. Not pointing accusing fingers at governors that is just simply saying that we should look at the future of this country. And please, for the love of mercy, if we want to have very veritable conversation in society, it's not by gaslighting others. I have unanimously, and most people unanimously affirm that subsidies must go. But what we have constantly asked for is, what are the plans put in place? These palliatives were not put in place hitherto. It was after the cry for the biting effect of the subsidy removal that this palliative started to kick in, which a lot of people feel is a result of poor planning. And hey, this government must remember, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Thank you.
All right, so the Minister of Information and Orientation, in perhaps his first major action since being sworn in as minister, responded to a statement by Governor Godwin Obaseki of Edo State, which was published on the front page of one of the newspapers, this day to be exact. And it was also put on their Twitter handle, Government of Nigeria, which is at Nigeria.gov. And a press statement titled, Elections Are Over, a call for Governor Godwin Obaseki to show more statesmanship. So let's dial it back to what the governor said exactly that seemed to rattle the federal government, and a whole press statement was released, not just addressing the issues, perhaps insufficiently, but also attacking his person and talking about how he ought to face governance in his state. He said, and I'll quote from Governor Obaseki, "I'm shocked that people who campaigned around the country saying that they will remove subsidies, but had no clear plans on what to do at a subsidy removal. They don't know what to do and how to support those who will be victims of subsidy removal." And so I want Nigerians to be the judge here. Where's the lie there? Governor Obaseki hasn't said anything out of the ordinary, hasn't said anything that we haven't said here, hasn't said anything out of what analysts and experts have said. That it seems as if this particular administration didn't have a clear-cut-out plan. In fact, the president himself did mention that he spoke out of the speech during the inauguration to say that subsidy is gone. So if it was not part of the plan to have announced that, it means that there wasn't a concrete or full plan to address the issues. Now, beyond even saying this, the evidence is there for all to see. In over 75 days, almost 3 months now, nothing concrete or substantial in terms of palliatives to cushion the effect of the removal of subsidy. Again, to emphasize that this has been called by World Bank, IMF, that subsidy has to go. But even in their reports, if you read the reports from the World Bank and IMF, they would usually state some things that ought to be in place to ensure a smooth transition from subsidy to the removal of subsidy. That is the bone of contention here, not the fact that subsidy was removed and not because he's against a particular government or he's not showing statesmanship. It is that he's stating the obvious because he's speaking on behalf of his people. I hope they feel the pulse of Nigerians and they actually listen to what people are saying. That hardship, look at the inflation rates, which Governor Obaseki mentioned in his statement. Look at this, people, the lack of cars, just even walking on your streets, it's obvious, without even taking empirical evidence as to the hardship it has put on people. Manufacturers have talked. The SMEs have spoken. A number of people have spoken about the hardship faced by Nigerians. And so when we advocate for the people that the government should do something, it shouldn't be seen as an attack or politicking. It is the state of the nation. Yesterday, we had Obong Victor Atta, who said that if there was anything worse than depressingly dire to describe the state of the nation, that's what he would say. Now, the essence of criticism or statements like this is not to make or put the government in bad light. It is to bring to fore the challenges and the plight of the people so that action can be taken. And so, just following that, under the story, we had the Katsina State Commissioner of Information who came out to say even the 5 billion naira that was promised as palliatives, they'd only gotten 2 billion naira out of it. What can we already criticized the fact that, well, I criticized the fact that 5 billion naira was a drop in the ocean. And then you're not even able to pay up the full amount of money. And you say that you had plans. Where are the plans? The taste of the pudding is in the eating. It's not about what is announced. It's the evidence before the people. So, for Minister Mohammed Idris, absolutely doing his work, he must speak on behalf of the government. But we do believe that in speaking for the government, the people want to see facts. It's not about slinging stones or politicking. Let the people be at the forefront of what the government is doing. Bring us facts. Where is the evidence? What has this government done to alleviate the sufferings of the people? Move on to our next story now. According to statistics from the National Bureau of Statistics, NBS, there has been a sharp drop in Nigeria's unemployment rate. The NBS says the figures are based on the new methodology of labor force survey, undertaken in collaboration with the World Bank and International Labour Organization. Nkechi Nana reports.
After a 2-year hiatus, the National Bureau of Statistics releases its Labor Force Survey report, showing a significant shift in its unemployment figures. The unemployment rate experienced a dramatic drop from 33.3% in 2020 to 5.3% in Q4 of 2022 and 4.1% in the first quarter of 2023. But there's a twist to this story that unveils a tale of a methodological change and its impact on the nation's workforce statistics. The disparities between the 2020 figures and the current ones are attributed to the adoption of a new methodology in the labor force survey.
But after the publication that we have during the COVID-19 era or period, that is Q4 2020 labor force figure, which was significantly reduced by the COVID-19 lockdown, it became necessary for us to re-examine the methodology and approach for conducting the labor force survey. The new standards recognize all forms of work carried out, whether the work is being paid or unpaid, and then, as we said, we want to be able to integrate with GDP and other data in the country. These issues, among others, limitations, form the main cause why we are changing to this new methodology.
Some of the changes include increasing the size of the sample to represent more people, which gave rise to these figures. The data collection for the revised NLFS is based on a sample of 35,520 households. The new standard also recognizes the working age population as persons aged 15 years and above, as opposed to the former age capped at 64. In regards to the working hours, the NBS new standard defines the unemployed as persons within the labor force who within the reference period, 7 days, did not work for pay or profit for a minimum of 1 hour.
Working age population, as seen in the presentation and the documentary itself, this was defined previously as people aged 15 to 64. But with this new concept and definition that we are using, which is what is applicable all over other countries. We are changing it to 15 years and above. We are not capping it at 64 again. What about the unemployed? These appear to be the most controversial among the changes that we are announcing and that will be seen today. The new standard defines unemployment as persons within the labor force, who within the 7 days reference period did not work for pay or profit for a minimum of 1 hour.
A country's unemployment data is a major indicator that measures the performance of any economy and helps to hold politicians and policymakers accountable for their promises. As Nigeria navigates through this dynamic landscape, the importance of a more comprehensive picture of the labor market to make better policy decisions is required. Nkechi Nana, Arise News.
Unemployment figures are out, methodology different. Okay, your take on this story.
I was looking at the methodology, and let me remove my glasses to see properly, because they said in the document that they shared, the old methodology says that all those working age population who are engaged in any activity that produce goods or provide services for a minimum of 20 hours in the reference period are employed. And now the new methodology says all those working age population who during the reference period were engaged in any activity to produce goods or services for pay or profit. In essence, what this means, what it translates into, is that if you're working 20 hours, you're considered as employed. But now, if you're producing anything that is profitable, even if you do it in 1 hour, it is small gari or coconut. You break one coconut, you sell it, and you make profit, you are employed. I don't understand that kind of logic. It doesn't make sense. The essence is you now suddenly discovered that in doing it that way, you're ending up with being able to say unemployment has fallen. That methodology, they claim that it is the same methodology that is, how do I put it, that is within the standard of the ILO. And that's fine. If that's what ILO says, that's fine. But for me, a number of issues are there. If the standard you're using or the methodology that you're using is one that captures more people as being employed as against being unemployed, then it looks like the numbers are being cooked. And if it looks like it, there is a reason for a lot of people to question it. So there is a lot of questions here. Forget about statistics. Forget about what NBS says to you. I know for a fact that in the area where I live, I see more young men hanging around the street that are unemployed, that are looking for opportunities to get something to do, even if it is just to clean your car. So all of these issues are there, and you say that the number is increasing? Absolutely not. Not with the situation that we face in Nigeria today, unless we want to lie to ourselves. So I would let Rufai take it on from here. But for me, that standard may said to not be flawed by ILO, but by Nigerian standard, considering the realities of our time, I don't want to believe that unemployment is falling. You're laughing.
This country is magic.
It's magic.
It's season filled.
It's magic, eh?
You see, it's so shocking. All of a sudden, from 33% unemployment rate, we just crashed to 4.1 by changing methodology. Nigeria just became better overnight.
It's a joke.
You see, let me also shock you. Let me take this joke further. Global unemployment rates: Japan 2.5%, America 3.5%, Nigeria 4.1%, UK 4.2%. Indonesia 5.4%, Canada 5.5%, Germany 5.6%, Egypt 7.0%. Overnight, Nigeria unemployment rate became better than that of the UK, that a lot of Nigerians are jackpot into, than that of China, and that of Germany, ahead of Egypt, ahead of Brazil. In fact, Nigeria now has one of the lowest unemployment rates in the world.
In the entire universe.
How long are we going to take this national joke further? Isn't this disgrace enough? You can see what happened with BRICS. Nations don't take us seriously any longer. KPMG made a projection that unemployment should be over 40% as we speak. We did not release unemployment data for about 2 years in a row, since last quarter 2020. And all of a sudden, we revised the methodology to favor a funny narrative that only 1 hour of work every day means you're employed. I think the Nigerian state should not do this to our policymakers. We shouldn't deceive ourselves. You see, the greatest thing you can ever do to yourself is self-deceit. Because it doesn't move away the problems. The problems are there. And when you deceive yourself, you don't get anywhere. So what you're saying is that if I leave my house, all right, for 1 hour every day, 7 days a week, I'm employed. And policymakers feel we should accept that in this country where there's biting inflation, biting unemployment, in a country about 133 million people living in multidimensional poverty. So if Nigeria's employment rate is 4.1% as it's been celebrated now, why do we have over 133 million people living in multidimensional poverty? Can we also juxtapose the poverty rates in the country we have not beaten now to their unemployment rates? Let's start by doing that. And now we're doing comparative methodology because it suits us all of a sudden. I think for us to tell ourselves the truth, let's go back to the former methodology that showed us where we truly were. Go to the companies, they're laying off people more than ever before. Now you're telling me overnight that Nigeria has a better unemployment rate than Germany? That Germany that creates so many jobs? Than the American economy that we know from job numbers, how many jobs they create monthly? The first data I would challenge the MBS to give us is how many jobs we are creating on a monthly basis in Nigeria. Now that we are almost as par with unemployment. And I saw a certain minister tweet this to celebrate this. We have become a pantomime in this country. And we're taking this joke too far.
All right. Okay, so we will have an expert speak to us in the course of today's show with regards to this new unemployment figures. The truth is that, and I think we spoke about this earlier when Rotus was here, that when we heard that the NBS was going to be releasing figures, we were quite looking forward to it because we had talked about the fact that we needed to know where we were in terms of numbers and statistics, facts, so that this new administration can understand the level or the extent of the work on their hands. Don't forget that this present administration, under the campaign of President Bola Tinubu, had put job creation as one of its key focus areas as a government. So having these numbers, it would have been quite critical as to understanding the depth or the how bad the issue was so that they can then begin to know how to fix it. However, when we're not willing, and by the way, I must mention that the Statistician General, Mr. Semiu Adeniro, emphasized that this was not in any way, I want to take it, the figures today are not based on any performance of any sort, but strictly, and I repeat, strictly on the change in methodology, end of quote. He said this. So just to clarify that he also was aware that it's not in tandem with what had been the reality of Nigerians. But it does look nice for a headline for any government to see unemployment at 4.1% in Nigeria. So in terms of the optics for this government, nice. But in terms of coming down to reality, it is important for this government to get the true numbers and the true picture. Truthfully, without getting the numbers, all you need to do is to look around you to understand that we are faced with an unemployment crisis. And that's why it's not just the federal government, but state governments. Lagos State government has the Lagos State Employment Trust Fund and other initiatives like that to encourage and stimulate the economy for job creation. There are issues on our hands. If the NBS is unwilling to tell the truth so that it paints a better picture, then we have not even yet started to get the work done or to begin to fix this challenge that we have. We have a huge problem of brain drain. In fact, beyond food security, a state of emergency on food security, there should be a state of emergency on human capital development and the loss of, and the brain drain that's going on. Look around us. Many of us know at least 2 people who have jackpot. In other words, who have migrated to other countries. Where, I mean, we have people who are going for university education that they don't need just so that they have an opportunity to move to another country. The situation is bad. Beyond unemployment, let's talk about underemployment and the fact that people in employment are not even working up to their qualifications, or they are underemployed, or are not earning as they ought to earn based on their level. And this is what is attractive for young people. We're losing our best brains. That's the truth. Look at our tech space. Look at the banking industry. Every industry has been affected by this. And so whilst the numbers look good in terms of on paper for this government, it is not a true picture of the unemployment situation in Nigeria. And I hope no one is fooled by that, where you see that, oh, okay, it looks like we're doing well. We need to know how well policies under the last administration did in terms of creating jobs and where the gaps are, so that we can plug those gaps and get Nigeria productive again and get our young people in jobs again. That's what we want to see. Yeah. We're out of time now, but
we're out of time, but I still keep looking at the methodology, and it clearly states that any activity to produce good or provide services for pay, if you collect 3 naira or 100 naira, that's it, you're employed.
It's just reduced.
It's ridiculous.
We have to go now.